The incident of how to buy a house explained with bananas. On March 14, 2011, in Curitiba, Paraná, Brazil, something unusual began to take shape. There were no sirens, no rush, only a sequence of quiet gestures, small decisions, and an event that, at first glance, seemed too trivial to warrant official attention. But it was precisely this triviality that caught notice. It all started with a single bag. Inside it, 3 ripe bananas. 1. Context and character. The protagonist of the case was Eduardo Nascimento, 34, a systems analyst. He led an organized, almost methodical life. He worked from 8 to 6. He always ate at the same restaurant, sat in the same chair. People said he didn't like surprises. He just liked knowing where everything was. Earlier that year, Eduardo had decided to buy his first house. It was not a grand dream. He wasn't looking for a pool, 2 floors, or a sunset view. He only wanted a quiet space where he could finally stop paying rent. But there was a problem. Eduardo didn't understand anything about the real estate market. He spent months reading articles, watching videos, trying to understand acronyms, fees, interest rates, amortizations, percentages. Every new piece of information seemed only to push him deeper into a maze with no exit. It was during this process that he began bringing bananas to work. Not out of hunger, not out of habit, but because, according to him, bananas were simple. If a concept was too complicated, he tried to translate it into bananas. It was the only way he found to keep his sanity. That morning of the incident, Eduardo entered the small office where he worked, placed the bag on the desk, and stared at it for a few seconds, as if preparing for a ritual. He sat down, straightened up, took a deep breath, and slowly opened the bag. The bananas were perfectly aligned. One represented the house price, another the hidden fees that come afterward, the third the emotional cost. This was Eduardo's way of organizing the chaos. 2. Escalation, rising tension. Colleagues found it curious when they saw Eduardo peeling the first banana and placing it on the desk as if it were a document. He didn't eat it, he just stared. In the following weeks, the behavior became more pronounced. Eduardo carried bananas everywhere, to meetings, lunches, the bus. Sometimes he left a banana next to his keyboard while studying mortgage plans. Other times he held one while talking to real estate agents on the phone. There was logic in it. Strange logic, but logic. He explained to anyone who asked, quote, "If I can't explain the price of a house using bananas, it means I haven't understood enough to buy one." Over time, the obsession turned into a silent obsession. Eduardo bought entire notebooks to draw bananas. Big bananas, small bananas, curved bananas, exaggerated bananas. Each represented a part of the home buying process. The relationship was simple, yet relentless. Green bananas were bad properties. Ripe bananas were good opportunities. Overripe bananas represented impulsive purchases, decisions made too late. Perfect bananas, those almost never appeared. Hours turned into days. Days turned into weeks. Eduardo worked, ate, slept, and returned to the bananas. The obsession provided some comfort, and also a kind of anxiety. The more he tried to explain the process, the more questions arose. The more he tried to simplify, the more he realized nothing was simple. Weariness began to appear, first in his eyes, which spent nights staring at spreadsheets, then in his shoulders, tense as if carrying bags of cement, and finally in his hands, trembling slightly while holding banana number 3, the banana of emotional cost. Eduardo didn't say it out loud, but he was afraid of making a mistake, afraid of losing money, afraid of committing to a mortgage for decades. Still, he continued. He drew bananas at lunch, redrew comparisons during meetings, repeated silently, like a mantra, quote, "I will only buy when I have the right banana." The phrase became part of the office environment. Anyone passing by knew something was forming, something growing slowly, like an invisible weight. 3. Climax, the breaking point. On the afternoon of March 14th, Eduardo found a listing that apparently ended his search, a small townhouse in the Ubaraba neighborhood. Fair price, clean paperwork, good location. He printed the listing and placed it beside the 3 bananas. Then he froze. The corridor was silent. The yellow ceiling light softly illuminated the desk. The fruit bag remained open, revealing 2 new bananas he had brought to ensure everything was balanced. Eduardo took a deep breath, moved his hands slowly, adjusted the position of the fruits as if assembling an equation. He placed the price banana next to the listing, then the fees banana, finally the emotional cost banana. This was decision time. But something didn't fit. Eduardo tilted his head left, then right, compared numbers, read the details again, looked at the bananas. He repeated the movement, and again, and again. The tension accumulated over weeks seems to snap. Suddenly, he stopped moving. His hands still held banana number 3, his eyes fixed on the paper. No expression, no reaction. His body simply went rigid, as if briefly disconnecting from the environment. The banana slipped from his fingers and fell, rolled across the desk, dropped to the floor. Eduardo didn't follow it with his eyes. Seconds stretched like minutes. Breathing became shallow. Then, slowly, almost like slow motion, the body leaned forward. His face met the desk with a dry sound. The other bananas rolled to the sides, forming a small yellow semicircle around him. Nothing happened for long moments. Only the constant hum of the air conditioning filled the room. 4. Aftermath/consequence. Minutes later, a colleague entered, called his name. No response. She touched his shoulder. Eduardo didn't react. She immediately called for help. Paramedics were summoned. The office emptied. When they arrived, Eduardo was found sitting, leaning forward, still holding a printed sheet under his arm and 3 bananas scattered across the desk. The initial signs indicated severe exhaustion. He woke slowly, confused, asking only, "The right banana, was it ripe?" He was treated on site and later taken to the hospital for evaluation. No lasting symptoms, only clear signs of accumulated stress, sleep deprivation, and mental overload. The incident was discreetly recorded and mentioned only in small local news portals. Reports referred to it as a collapse caused by overwork and anxiety related to home buying. No official mention was made of the bananas, but everyone in the office knew they were part of the episode. After 2 days, Eduardo was discharged, advised to rest, reorganize his routine, and avoid immediate financial decisions. 5. Conclusion/final reflection. The incident quickly passed through minor headlines, soon forgotten among the day's news. But for those who witnessed it, the silent memory remained of a man who tried to oversimplify a process that by nature is never simple. No one expected that the pursuit of clarity would lead to exhaustion. A method created to ease life became the weight that brought him down. In the end, buying the house was postponed, and the bananas were left aside, at least for a while. 6. Final CTA. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to the channel and leave suggestions for the next case in the comments.